uppercut, try to hit me in the gut, thinking that I won't react. You whispering my name, thinking I won't be the same. Turn fiction into fact. See what you didn't know, bruises that I'll never show, slipping on your every jab. So tighten up your fist, step into the ring with this. I hope your mama's got your back. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, pulling the sound of my name in the crowd. You hit a bus. Oh, 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 oh. You hit a bus. Oh, 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 oh. Just 'cause I took a break, you're making a huge mistake, thinking you can take the throne. Look at you trembling, step into the lion's den, bet you wish you stayed at home. Begging for mercy underneath your breath when I ain't even sweating yet. My legend's written in the stone, yeah. You're crying age in defeat is now your only friend. Even your mama's gotta know. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, pulling the sound of my name in the crowd. You hit a bus. Oh, 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 oh. You hit a bus. Oh, 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 oh.
I'm playing the show, but it's on my tablet. Muted.
Oh. Well, I have a tab open with it on playing too, but it's muted, so.
It's been fixed wherever it's been coming from, so we're good, and we'll be live in a little less than a minute. All right, perfect. So when we're live, just if you guys could just be, I won't mute anyone, but if you guys could just be quiet for just a minute, I'm going to say hi to 𝐒𝐴𝐵, make sure everyone knows he's here, and then I'm going to just very quickly run by the other people in here. I'm going to make sure everybody gets a camera on air. It just takes a minute because I got to manually put everyone in there, but everyone will be able to hear you, so we'll just be able to start talking. So I got about 40 seconds, and then the mics will be hot. Oh, there's about 10 seconds. Hello, and welcome everyone to After Dark. We actually already have a number of people in here. We've been sort of shooting the shit before the... oh, mics are hot now. There you go. Okay, that's worth... yeah, okay, there you go. Gonna have to figure out how that happened, as usual. Wouldn't be anything different. So with me tonight is 𝐒𝐴𝐵. How are you?
Oh, pretty good.
That's good.
I feel like I'm going to turn into a pumpkin today. So.
Why is that?
It's way past my normal bedtime.
So, well, I'm really glad you decided to show up anyway, and that's a beautiful street you're showing us. Thank you so much for that view. It's always I see something new every time you're on. Also, well, no, I don't. I see a road, but at least it's a different road.
Yes. Although, if you stick with me long enough, pretty soon you'll see a pattern of roads because there's only so many ways to go from one place to another.
So, all right. So, yeah, of course. All right. And so we also have Ollie, who has joined us. Ollie, how you doing?
I'm excellent. Enjoying a Friday night.
Good.
Smoking a couple of bowls and a little bit of vape.
Nice. Very nice. I used to partake, not anymore, but I certainly, yeah, that's a, many worse ways to spend a weekend. Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. That's just going to need to figure that. And also, Brendan is joining us again. Brendan, how are you?
Hey, what's up? What's going on? Just also smoking marijuana. Having a good time. It's awesome.
Nice. I guess I'm going to have to remember that technically it's still federally illegal. So I think at this point nobody cares. But it's just sort of like, you know, it's an interesting position to be in.
State, it's legal, so.
Yep. I guess as long as the feds don't really care.
I'm in Canada. It's legal here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
it's legal, so you ain't got nothing to worry about.
It's a weird position because, according to the Constitution, of course, supremacy, the laws of the federal government are supreme over state governments, and the federal government says it's illegal, but states are just like, nah, we're going to do it anyway. And it's sort of like, okay, just put the government in a weird position. I'm really glad we're back to not enforcing it, though, that's for sure. All right. So otherwise, how's everyone going now? Xander and I were actually talking for about an hour before the show. We wanted to do a test. We are on, and so the other thing is we're on a brand new system for everybody connecting. It is a lot easier from the production side. It's the lag is almost gone. It's amazing. It's a really good system. Very pleased with it. But it's got two drawbacks. One, it's called Microsoft. Or at least it's made by Microsoft, and I'm inherently suspicious of anything by Microsoft. And second of all, it's an app that very few people ever actually use, but it works, and it works well. So we've switched to that. I would like to thank everybody who connected tonight using it, because I know it's a new system for everybody, but I've already been able to just tell the difference in the audio, and there's a lot more bonuses in the back end. Not the least of which is I have more than 3 seconds to pick up and merge a call when somebody calls in. So if I miss it, they're just hanging out in the lobby until I catch it. That makes things a lot easier. And for those of you who feel like, you know, you've tried to connect once or twice and you can't connect, that shouldn't happen anymore. So I'm like, okay, this is good system, but I know it's a pain in the neck. So let's see. So. Oh, and I'm roboting. I'll take a look into that. I'll look into that. Thank you for that, and I'll figure it out. But until I figure that out, Xander and I were chatting. Anyone have anything they wanted to chat about tonight?
What I was going to say, it's kind of buffering a little too. I'm watching this stream. For me, at least.
All right, yeah. There's usually a couple of different things that can cause that, and I just, I'll take a look at them, eliminate them, and usually, any luck, it'll be under control in a minute or two. It shouldn't be too bad. So, until then, people have to put up with at least a little buffering. I've already found one source of it, so I'll get that tweaked, and I suspect there's one other source. So. Yeah, so anyways, I don't know. Let's see, an interesting week, a lot going on. We did a couple of shows. We got a couple of really good shows coming up over the next 2 weeks that I'm excited about. But, screw it. That's what we're doing. What are you guys up to? Or what are you guys excited about that's coming up?
Not a whole lot, really. Been a hectic work week for me. That's. I'm just looking forward to relaxing this weekend.
I did want to talk to you, Ollie. Could you get in touch with Neil for me and ask him why he has to schedule his shows and after parties during in-time stream and broadcast? Because A, that means I don't get to come in and break his balls, which really kind of ruins my week. But also B, then, it's like we're splitting the audience. I think he's doing this on purpose. I don't know what I did, but it's awfully passive aggressive of him. And if you could just, let him know that I spotted that, I'd really appreciate it.
I'll leave that to you, Nick. You're going to have to bring that up with him, buddy.
Oh, no. I'm passive aggressive.
For me to discuss with him.
I'm passive aggressive too. I can't do it. I have to have other people do it for me. But that, if it's not you, that's cool. I'll find someone else. I'll attack him with a sock account. I'll make a sock account. I'll troll him, and we'll straighten him out.
You'll make a sock account to troll him. Okay, sounds good to me, buddy.
Perfect. So Xander, where are you off to now? So for the people who don't know, most people know by now, but Xander's a trucker, and he does he oh my God, he travels more in a week than I do in a year. And So that's why you see the truck, and he's just pulled over right now and hanging out with the show. But sometimes he's going to really interesting places with really interesting cargo, and other times he's doing really mundane shit. So I'm always curious as to what we're gonna get. So what are you up to?
Today is this trip is mundane trip. I'm in Kadoka, South Dakota. So I'm out near the Badlands. Went through, but 5 Mount Rushmore earlier today. And I'm just hauling utility cross arms for the power poles, the stuff that they hang the power lines off of, for those little cross arms. So I got a big load of those going to Liverpool, New York.
Now, now you did a whole load of those after the hurricanes hit in the south, and you were you were sending the stuff they need to rebuild the telephone poles that got taken out. But so it's the same stuff, but it's going to New York.
Correct. There's only a couple of places in the country where you can get these utility cross arms, because they're treated with a specific chemical, and it's a pretty nasty chemical, and there's some pretty heavy restrictions on where it can be used, and plus the kind of wood that they use. It's all coastal Douglas fir, so Doug fir trees that grow within 100 miles of the coast is what they use for the utility cross arms, and then it's treated. Let me see here. I got the. They include
and while you're working on that, we have a Mr. Pig in the live chat. So if we could make sure he does not get a copy of the link, I repeat, under no circumstances should he be given a copy of the link to the show. Yeah, just throwing that out there. So please continue.
Okay, my whole camera's gonna shimmy and shake and shudder. Let's see if I can get a better lighting on this. There we go. That's better. Let's do it this way. Maybe that'll work. Okay, we're going to cover up the show on the tablet. So it's whatever this stuff is. It's chemically treated wood, pentachlorophenol, and petroleum distillate. So,
okay,
nasty kind of stuff. Anyway, this stuff will literally, you can bury it in the ground and come back a few hundred years later and it'll still be there, and it won't be rotted at all. It'll actually UV rot faster than it'll rot in the ground, which is funny because they use it on power poles. But yeah, so there's only a few places you can get it, and so we deliver this stuff all over the country. And whenever there's hurricanes or tornadoes, natural disasters that take down the power grid, we end up sending a lot more of it to that area so they can fix the power lines. And one of the manufacturers for that happens to be in Bellingham, Washington, which is 40 miles from my house. So, and it's only 9 miles from our yard. So we load a lot of this stuff coming out of the Pacific Northwest, going all over the country.
Yeah.
Well, I'm always one of the things that I found interesting is Andrew talking about when he heads into areas where civilization is starting to break down, which in the North Americas we don't usually think about that. We don't have to worry about it. But when you hit Katrina, or when you go to where Katrina has hit, and when you go to places where hurricanes have hit, and you go to places where people are starving and short of water, and you're in a truck that's the only supply of water for 100 miles, it's you've had some hair-raising stories.
Yeah, and you can go into some weird places too, like going into Detroit. There's some areas in Detroit when you're driving through where you'd swear to God you slipped up and you're now in some Bosnia Herzegovina wartime shit.
In the U.S. though,
you're places. But it's really creepy driving through parts of Chicago, Detroit, because it's like you'll see an entire block that's abandoned, and the road looks like it's had mortar shells hit it, and it can get really creepy. I think there's been one instance where I felt I was actually concerned and worried and a little, and it happened in Washington D.C. and it's within about 2 blocks of each other. I had 2 totally different experiences. I was delivering some siding stuff in church out just outside. Kind of
you're breaking up just a little bit. I don't know. Actually, I think somebody. Yeah. I think Brendan. Actually, there's a little background sound coming in from you, and I think that's mixing with his sound, making it a little harder to hear him.
Oh, okay. I'll mute.
Do I sound any better now?
Much.
Yeah.
Okay. So I went to Washington, D.C. to deliver these building supplies to a church and missed the turn because the directions really kind of sucked, and ended up going down to a strip mall and parking the truck. It was a couple blocks away from where I needed to go, and I was able to get stopped and pulled over there. Got out of the truck. I think I was going to get something to eat or walk around or check the load. I can't remember why I got out of the truck, but the truck I had at the time was an older International, and the door lock on top of the door was just in a really bad place. So when you go to, and where in relation to the door handle, the way you open it, you end up hitting that lock with your arm as you're getting out of the truck. And I would hit it quite a lot, and I would end up locking the truck. And well, I didn't grab my keys because I wasn't going anywhere. So the keys were still in the ignition, the truck is running. And I go to get out and didn't realize I'd locked the truck, and then locked myself out of my truck. So now I'm wandering around the strip mall looking to see if anybody has a wire coat hanger. Because with a wire coat hanger, you can break into my truck in literally 3 seconds.
So
and
it's good that you've got it locked, but okay, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Well, you have to know how to. If you know how to do it, you can literally do it in 3 seconds. It took me about 10 minutes to figure out how to do it, and then once you figure out where to put it and all that stuff, because you just slide it down between the glass and the inside of the door and the cable thing or the rod that goes up to the. Anyway, you can catch it really easily. So I'm wandering around the strip mall, and this is a predominantly black area. I'm looking around, and all I see are black people. And I'm thinking nothing of it. It's like, I just need to see if somebody has a coat hanger. Well, I had a lot of people, especially one lady, started following me around and talking loudly, not talking directly to me, but just talking loudly behind me, talking about this, fool white boy being down in this hood, and he doesn't belong here, and he's likely to find himself in a world of hurt. Just kind of following me around, making these comments loudly.
Damn, just muttering to herself.
Yeah, but really loudly. Like
she
is intending for me to hear all of this stuff, but not actually directing it at me.
Yeah.
And so I started getting a little worried. It's like I just want a coat hanger. I'm trying to bring you guys some stuff. I'm looking for a coat hanger. Give me a coat hanger, and I can't get in my truck. I'm literally stuck outside. Starting to get a little worried. Finally, there was somebody that I ran across, and of course everybody that I said hi or anything to me, because there were some nice people too. And there was one guy that was sitting out there, and he saw me walk into all these stores. And he's like, what's going on? And it's like, I locked myself out of my truck. I'm just looking for a coat hanger or wire like that so I can get my truck unlocked. And that guy's like, oh, no problem, man. And he starts asking people too, and he's like, oh, don't worry about it. I think he actually went to his girlfriend's house. I don't know how far away it was, but he's gone for about 20 minutes. Went to his girlfriend's house, got me a wire hanger, and came back and handed it to me and said, here you go. So I very helpful, was able to get my truck unlocked, finally got a hold of these people that I'm delivering to, the contractors that were doing the siding on the church, got myself turned around, went back up to where it was. As I said, it's about 2 blocks away. I'm parked and next to kind of a convenience store type thing. It's an old abandoned parking lot where I could get parked, and I was out of hours. I'm rules that dictate.
And I want to hear the explanation. I do want to hear the explanation for that, but actually, MathPig was uncertain if he was in, and I was hoping if I ignored him long enough, he'd leave. But he's actually in, and we can hear him. So,
fuck you.
And I realized he can hear me too, so that may not have been the wisest time to make those comments. But I was never accused of being the wisest. All right, so but successful test. He is in the room. And it's MathPig. There's no real question to that, I think. So, and then I wanted to say there's a couple. We actually had a Sister Porpoise $2 super chat. Thank you, Porpoise, for your super chat and for your support. Thank you so much. Any red state equals a state where civilization has broken down. Yeah. Yeah, you're not going to get much of an argument from me. But anyway, so you were saying, and then I want to talk to MathPig and see how MathPig is doing, but I wanted to let you wrap up. Yeah, your hours. You can only drive so many hours in a set period of time, right?
Correct. Excuse me. So I can't leave now at this point. I'm out of hours. I can't legally leave. And of course, I've got electronic logbooks to the computer on my truck. I can't cheat it. So now I'm stuck in this place overnight. And it's like all the stores have bars on the windows and stuff. So you kind of get that feeling like maybe I'm not in the best part of town. But I get out and I walk up the street and go to the convenience store to see if they have anything to eat. Going to be convenience store fooding it for the night because I can't go anywhere. And as I'm going up there, it was like a totally different experience. It's like I don't know if school got out. I don't know what happened. But a whole bunch of people out on the road, and a bunch of them sitting on like concrete walls and stuff. And everybody is staring at me. As I'm walking my little happy butt up to the convenience store, and you see a lot of people. They just kind of start chuckling. Saying hi, how's it going? And saying hi right back. Go up to get to the store. One guy steps out, he opens the door for me. He's like, here you go. I don't thank you very much. Go in, get my stuff, wander back down. Again, people kind of waving, laughing. So and it was like that whole, and I'm sure they're just laughing at this dumbass white guy that's wandering around part of the neighborhood. Go down, get in my truck, and I had no problems. None whatsoever. But just 2 blocks away, it was like all these people thought it was funny, and that they were actually quite polite. And then down the other place, I apparently, annoyed some people, and they followed me around, kind of with innuendo threats. So yeah, just 2 blocks away, and 2 totally different feelings.
All right, and I wanted to say,
that's the only time I've ever felt. I felt worried.
So on Kathy, very Hitchens, very handsome of you. So hope you enjoy it. Let me know. Our head mod has not read it, so don't listen to his reviews of that particular book. Is my first piece of advice. Porpoise is. I appreciate the super chat, but she's not a literary critic. I'm just saying. But thank you so much, and so. MathPig, how are you? Did MathPig bail? Oh no, MathPig muted, which is awfully kind of MathPig, so that we don't have to deal with the background noise. So, but I don't know. Oh, there. Hey, how are you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
I do apologize. I am on the laptop in the living room rather than the main computer, but it's coming through okay.
Oh, perfect. It's very clear.
Seems all right.
Yeah, I'm under pressure because I'm on another stream, and Nick sends me a link, and it's all, oh man, I need you to come here and save the stream. There's, we need to get here now. So,
okay, and so I also wanted to point out on Kathy. On Kathy, I also wanted to point out that I am not the most creative storyteller on the stream right now. And there's just
that's
sort of like
also very funny considering when you ask Nick one question that would be answered yes or no when he writes you a fucking paragraph. But go on ahead, Nick.
Well, I believe in nuance. And you are really triggered by that. That only happened like 5 or 6 times. And usually this is the kind of but the reason he's laughing is because that's actually the real number. But fucking son of a bitch.
It's only like 3. No, it's really only like 3. It's
yeah, but it's not. It was more than 1. That's for sure. No,
well then, normal person would have been like 7, considering how many words you fucking typed. But for Nick, it's only 3.
Well, here's the thing, and nobody gets this. Writers, the better they get, the more verbose they get, usually often just in general chatting, and certainly in anything shorthand, like DMs, anything like that, they get much more verbose. And the reason is because it actually takes them longer to write well, because they understand what it takes to go. It's the Twain, when he said, excuse the length of this letter, but I didn't have time to write a short one. So writers, as they get better, write longer when they're not concentrating, because they're used to being able to say so much in such a short period of time, so they get frustrated by it, and when they're not when they're not really trying to write well. Oh dear Lord, you've seen it, Math Pig. I mean, it's like, it's like trying to murder somebody with just the sheer weight of letters you're throwing at them. But then people are like, well, geez, supposed to be a good writer.
The amount of words that you sent me in what could have been described as yes or no, and I converted the words that you sent me into bricks. I could probably build a house worth about 150,000.
There's no such thing as a yes or no. You know what? You don't think outside the the bricks box. You'd be right in the box. I can't live in a yes or no world, and it's just unfair of you to try to deny.
Is the sky blue? Is the sky blue, Nick?
No, what's blue is the rays that are bouncing across the sky and off the dust in the, yes.
You answered just as I expected you to.
I'm sure. I really hate being predictable, but unfortunately, there's more than one person who's got my number, and you seem to get it faster than most.
Well, you know what you did? You just created the exception that proves the rule. Is Nick predictable? Yes or no?
More than I'd like to be. You see, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yes.
I can't. It hurts. It is like I'm not kidding. It's like nails on a chalkboard. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. No, it's nails on a chalkboard. I can't. No, this is actually, I think this is a human rights violation, quite frankly. You're bullying me into like, Nick, give me the answer I want, Nick. Tell me the yes. No, I'm not. No. You're a prescriptivist, aren't you?
Do scissors cut things. Do scissors cut things.
Yes. Are you happy? Have you proved some grand point? Have you cured world hunger? No.
I don't category me now. That's kind of I just wanted to focus on.
Oh, shit. I hate arguing with people who actually don't.
Hi, Nick. No. Thank you for sending me the invite.
Yeah, that was really smooth on my part. I said this was the reason I told people not to send you the invite. I just didn't follow my own advice. My words are bigglier than yours. Yeah. Oh, for fuck's sake. I'm gonna have to. Okay, Math Pig. Here's a question.
I love the bigglier words.
You what?
Things,
you love the
stuff. Bigglier words.
What was the perception of the United States for having elected the buffoon in the first place? Did people sit there and say, "Oh, I get it. Americans are frustrated," or did they just say, "You know what? There's obviously high amounts of lead in the drinking water across the entire fucking country"?
I'm going with the lead theory.
Well, it doesn't have to be one or the other, right?
Yeah, I guess it could be. It could be both.
I'm sorry about you would not believe how much WD-40 I put on my chair. I actually did, and it's doing it about half. So it's like if I limit how much I move, but that's the other thing. It's just like I have to move too. I can't answer yes or no questions, and I have to move. I don't even want to think about like what they think about us in Germany. Oh dear Lord. Yeah, so let's just make sure. Let me see if I can just get this up too. There should be. So there we go. Just like I said, and I'll reiterate this in a second. So yeah, I'll bring up that. So yeah, we switched over to this new system. It's Microsoft Teams, which I basically never heard of. We use a really cool system for parsing video. It's called NDI. You can do a lot of really cool stuff with it, but there's only two programs that use NDI natively, and one is Skype, which we've been doing for a while, and the other is Teams, which I'm sitting there going like, why on earth would I use Teams? But it turns out there are really a lot of advantages to it, so we switched to that. Nobody's ever heard of it. Nobody's ever used it except Porpoise. I was asking Porpoise about it. She's like, oh yeah, I use it. But it actually has solved so many problems. Yes?
OBS does handle NDAs.
Yes, it does. OBS does very well, and so does vMix. vMix handles NDI.
Yeah, I was just, you said there was only 2. Yeah, but
programs that natively handle NDI out. So that means that like when somebody, so like a connection program could stream to OBS. So if you're going to try to get NDI into OBS, you have to get it from either Skype or Teams, or a non-native with some NDI intermediary, like the NDI virtual input. And then with the virtual input, you can pull it off of anything. But ones that natively broadcast NDI, that you could broadcast into OBS or into vMix or into some other software, only 2 programs that'll do it natively.
There's an app for that.
Is there an app for a mute button anywhere? I'm just wondering, but just casually, for no particular reason.
I will disagree with everything you say for the next fucking 20 minutes, Nick.
And how is that going to be different than we call that Friday night? You
fucking asked me to join for controversy.
I did not ask. You asked to. You said, "Is this an open hang? Is there a link?" And because I was polite, probably non-compos mentis for at least 30 seconds, I said, "I'll send you the link." You asked for it. Don't sit there and blame me for you. Is that a real argument? I don't think that's actually an argument.
And I just want to point out how fucking triggered Nick is. All right? Does anyone else?
I wonder why.
Fucking triggered Nick.
Is it okay? Matt, can I get to the live chat in my own hang? Is that something that you think is okay now? You might be able to let me do that. Good, great, glad to hear it. Let's see. Your actions are not predictable because you can only predict the actions of large. Yeah, my chair is not a human rights violation. Holy, this stream has just gotten. Wow. My chair is not a human rights violation. I'm really pretty sure of that. I mean, I guess I'm not 100% sure. I mean, the solipsism could be true, and but I'm really kind of sure my chair is not a human rights violation. How much worse would things be if, yeah. Oh, dear Lord. I don't know. And then, you see, and I'm kind of trying to avoid, I don't know how much we want to talk about the, because, well, we already covered it. I don't know, Xander, you want to cover that or you want to go into something else? What do you think?
I try not to think. I leave that to you. That way, when
that's a bad idea.
Absolutely horrible, I can just blame you. And say, well, I was here the whole time thinking this was probably not a good idea, but no, I insisted.
Yeah, it was all on Nick. He decided we needed to do it that way, and that's the way we did it.
Thanks, buddy. Ollie, so glad you came too. It's not paranoia if they all really are out to get you. That's what I get. I spent 3 days with Ollie working on his character for Diablo 3. Sure, I had other things I could do, but 3 days getting that character leveled up.
3 days.
And this is how he repays me.
He got me from Paragon 605 to 634. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It was a challenge. Hey, I helped you get that new slot too, right? I mean, you got the new slot. I don't know what you're like. What, Nick? I can get a whole new tab? I was just like, yeah, you can. I'm your buddy, so I'll help you out.
So you did make me aware of it, yeah.
And I helped you get it, right? I was like, you're like, wait, how do I do the challenges, Nick? I was like, here's how you do a challenge. Oh, I did the challenge. Can you help me find a chest that doesn't exist? Well, Ollie, maybe there's a better way than I really remember being helpful. I'm just saying. And no, I'm not bitter, Math Pig.
No matter how bitter he sounds.
I never said a fucking thing. I was quiet.
I'm sure you have something to do with this. He was a nice guy till you showed up. He was. I mean, that's just objectively true. I think.
I was a nice guy until Math Pig showed up?
Yes.
Okay.
I have seen Ollie on an awful lot of streams with B, and Ollie's always nice.
Exactly. So what explains now? There's only one thing that's changed.
I do think that now, looking at Ollie right now, it looks like he used to have a beard or didn't have a beard, or did you have like a 5 o'clock shadow, or what's happened?
No, I just
You're an
haven't
awful
shaved.
lot smoother than what I usually talk to.
I shaved the beard off a couple of weeks ago, dude. But I haven't shaved the stubble off in a couple of days, so
that's what it is. You see,
a little stubbly.
Can I ask? Did Nick even notice that you shaved your beard? No.
Oh, of course I noticed. I noticed several weeks ago when he did it, because I decided, you know what, I'm going to go to streams outside of my little echo chamber, and I was in the after show for Neil604, and it just so happens I noticed. I just didn't say anything.
You left your echo chamber and you went to Neil's.
Yes, that is correct.
Like part of. Have you heard of 𝐒⁴Mania? Have you heard of 𝐒⁴ Streams? Have you heard of the Blessed Bible Club? Because that's where I was tonight, out of my echo chamber.
Why would you
I've
go
never
out
heard of them?
Yeah, I've never heard of them either.
There you go. No,
if I haven't heard of them, then they're probably not worth. I mean, seriously. I mean, right? I mean, it's just
okay. I was on 𝐒⁴ earlier with Kat, Will Kincaid, Knock, and a few others, and we were all. But basically, I told Will how much of an asshole he was for about 40 minutes, so it wasn't all a waste of time.
I've never met Will Kincaid. I have never seen a stream he's on. I have never interacted with him in any way. But even I have a reasonably good idea of who he is.
40 minutes of being told.
Yes, that's what. Yes, I would totally agree with that based on everything I've heard from so many sources. Yeah, no, that was time well spent. I can't. You win. You win that one. That was from at least from what's been. Yeah.
It's still going. I left to come back, and now my fucking best mate from Australia has joined that stream, and it's like, Robbie, where are you? And I don't know. You're gonna have to entertain me some special. Like you're gonna have to get your penis out or something.
Wait. That's what you call. That's the bar for entertainment. Right now, I'm basically letting you shit all over me on my stream, and you're like, there's no nudity, there's no pornography. So what am I doing here?
I'm just saying, my best mate that's from Australia, that we don't talk to that often because he's in Australia, has joined another stream going, you need to come and join this. So to top my best mate that I very rarely talk to, you're going to have to do something spectacular.
The best mate, he's your best mate, but you never talk to because he's in Australia, and neither of you have heard of the internet, instant messages, email,
I didn't say
Skype.
Never talk to, I say, okay. He, in this last 7 months, has started his own business. Looking at it, you're going to feel really bad now. In this last 7 months,
I couldn't think any worse of you. Please don't worry.
Looking after disabled children, and he has been spending most of his time doing that. And I haven't been able to talk to him over this last 7 months because he's been doing that. He has 10 people working underneath him. It's got great reviews. He's doing an awful lot of good for disabled children. So would you like to give me more shit why I don't talk to him for this last week? Go.
I fucking hate you. No, I fucking hate you.
I'm trying to be an asshole.
No, you are not. You are most certainly not tired of it. You're oh, dear Lord. Oh. I've got to tell you.
Nick, in all honesty, I do love you.
Oh,
I do love you, Nick. You know that.
You have always been just so awesome to hang with, and thank you so much. I think you're an amazing person, and I'm sorry we don't get a chance to chat more. We always sit there. One of us will start a conversation, and then the other one will pick it up like sometime later, and then we'll be like, "Wait, well, what is this about?" Yeah. You
send me a message, and 3 hours later I send you one, and 6 hours later you reply, and then 4 hours later I reply. Our time zones don't match.
No, that's just like, well, I'm really glad you came by. So, and then I was just, yeah. So, let's not. No, we are not going to do the Mankini thing.
Well, just call me out. Just call me out and say, "Math pig, you're a fucking asshole."
Yeah, but the problem is, I like to be original.
We don't have to call it an obvious thing, dude.
Yeah, I know. Exactly right. I mean, it's just like I have to say something original. Everyone knows that one already. It's like, is the sky blue? Right.
Exactly where I was aiming, yeah.
That's called a callback, yeah.
Flashback humor. Very fond of flashback humor.
I really hate. I've got to tell you, I'm obviously, and I'm about to contradict myself, right? But I'm not a fan of we don't we try not to call out people on the show. We try not to do any stuff like that. But I've heard a lot of shit about people that I end up meeting and liking. So I try to always, just wait until I meet the person and form my own opinion. And by the way, more often than not, actually, whatever my opinion ends up kind of comporting with the sort of general consensus. So it's like I'm off, but I still try to always give them, and I often get pleasantly surprised. But Mr. Kincaid there is the only one that I've heard about him from probably 20 or 30 different sources over the period of 2 or 3 years. And I haven't heard a single one that really had anything pleasant to say about the man. And that takes talent. And that's unfortunate because, you wouldn't want someone like that in the community. And obviously they're still around in the community. As I understood it, he was gone for a little while and he came back. But I was just like, wow, I probably... People are bigger fans of Darth Dawkins.
The funny thing is, Will's best friend is Kat. Kat actually lived physically in the same house with Will Kincaid for a while. I'm not sure if they still do it. And I love the bones of Kat. Kat is, I think it's because Kat's not kryptonite, but Kat is as honest. She's blunt. They're straight to the point, and if you tell them they're being an asshole, they'll accept it. Where if you tell Will he's being an asshole, he'll double down, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
And they will agree with you that Will Kincaid's a fucking prick and an asshole, which is also beneficial.
By the way, I don't think I told anyone this, but I think you were on the stream. You may not. I don't remember if you were there or not, but somehow you in the whole Mankini thing. Which, speaking of war crimes, but the image of you in that was somehow circulating around.
Wait, now, hold on, just to clarify, is it Mathkini Mark 1 or Mathkini Mark 2?
You know what? I didn't check the serial number on the thing.
Is one Mathkini Mark 1 is green and Mathkini Mark 2 was for my birthday and I lost 1.5 stone of weight. And I actually tried for Mathkini Mark II because I knew it was happening. So it looks better.
I can find it. It's still on my phone. So what happened was Neil had it and he showed it.
You dirty pervert.
I saved it for charity because what I did was as soon as actually, and Neil, no, it wasn't Neil who showed it. Somebody else showed it. I captured it on my phone and then sent it to Neil during the stream. And you could just see the moment when it comes in on his phone. And he looks up and gives me this look. It's just like, you're welcome.
Ollie would probably know. It's a friend of Crafty's. I can't remember the exact name of the stream. It's one of maybe the Plot Hole or Tatty or one of that crowd. I can't remember exactly. And I jumped into a stream for the very first time and I just said my usual oink, Someone had sent me a link. I subscribed, said oink in the live chat. And they were like, "Hi, Math Pig. It's nice to actually talk to you. I've already seen enough of you that I want to see for the rest of my life." And I was like, okay, so the Mathkini has preceded me. I need to go back into my hole now.
Well, hey, you tried to get me to do the same thing.
I have no idea who that was, dude.
I think everybody was on this stream, so I think Ollie, you were there, and Mathpig must have dropped in because then somebody was talking about every guy here, and this may have also happened on B's stream, but every guy here is going to have to take one of those photos, and it's just like, I'm sorry, my mic is. What was that? No, I couldn't hear a thing. Yeah, I'm not. Nobody needs to see that.
These are all, I don't know. Everybody should be happy in the body you're born in. You're going to fucking born in it. You're going to die in it. You might as well be happy in it.
That is a far more enlightened view than I can sustain, I think. It's real. You're right. You're absolutely right. Congratulations. Thanks. Again, you made a good point. But I'm not there yet. Yeah, it is charity because torturing Neil 604, I think is it makes people happy, and every time.
I'll just say, Nick. I'll say this before I leave, Nick. There's worse looking guys out there than you. There's nothing to be ashamed of. We all have penises. We all are gonna die fucking someday. It matters nothing. People on the internet, they make no difference. If your wife thinks you're fucking hot and you can get your end away, everything's good, and that's all that fucking matters. I know that's a sexist view. I'm trying to make a point, but you know what I mean. The person in your life that you love the most, if she finds you sexy, who the fuck gives a shit what anyone else thinks?
It was such a good point. I wasn't even going to point that out. You're absolutely right, and you know what? You're an asshole all the time. That's not the shit that bugs me. The shit that bugs me is when you just say that shit, and I was just like, "Yep, you owned it." And we all just got to admit that doesn't matter that you're an asshole. You just know what the fuck you're talking about. So thank you.
I've been hanging out in the sub-basement of the community for about 3 hours, so I do apologise for bringing this stream down ever so slightly. I will now leave and let you talk about philosophy and epistemology and all those wonderful things that make everybody feel smart about themselves, and I go back to the sub-basement and garage.
If I don't mention the word epistemology and ontology at least twice in a sentence, my self-esteem just goes. So thank you for understanding, and thanks so much for coming by.
I can 100% agree. Man, I was talking to a minister earlier, and he asked me what I was into, and I said epistemology and ontology, and we had a conversation. He gave me his number, and hopefully I'll get him on the stream earlier. So, yeah.
Ooh. Let me know when you do.
That's very interesting. Wedding rehearsal tonight for my brother's wedding. It's happening in a hotel, but the guy, the minister that's doing it in the hotel, wanted to do a rehearsal, did it in his church, had an LGBTQ flag flying in the back. I overheard him talking to another person who said, and when he described himself from the other minister's point of view, referred to himself as a liberal radical. They have an Iranian gay couple in their congregation who has escaped Iran. He has performed gay weddings. He seems very liberal. He didn't even refer to himself as a Christian when I was talking to him tonight. He referred to himself as an agnostic, which I thought was quite interesting.
That is interesting. All right. Wow. All right.
Yeah, and this guy runs a fucking church.
I'll
send you a link from like 8 months ago. I looked up their YouTube channel, and there's they tried to do you know that Bible rap music song?
It sounds. I think.
There's that.
It sounds familiar.
They tried to do a rap music dance thing in the church, and they recorded it. It's like 1 minute and 50 seconds long. It's fucking awful, but they're trying,
Yep. No.
Which I thought was good.
All right. Well, have an awesome night, and definitely let me know. Send me the other link too. So.
Yeah. Have a good night, Matt Big.
He's actually having a debate next week against a humanist, because a humanist made a statement that humanism is a more modern, more recent thing from this last 100 years, and he's debating the side that humanism has been around from the Greek times, from old philosophy. Ooh. He's having that in the next week.
Oh, that's one I'd like to watch live.
I might.
Definitely.
He sounds interesting. So,
that's on.
On that note, I will say, Nick, thank you very much for putting up with my bullshit. Ollie, always good to talk to you.
Yep. Good night, man.
Sandring, nice. And everybody, thank you very much for putting up with me. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later, my pig. So the interesting thing about that, we're actually going to have on Dr. John Shuck, who's a professor of philosophy at a college, at a university. Well, I can't believe I can't even. I'll remember in a minute. But we've had him on a lot. We had like this whole philosophy series. So a lot of people have been talking about what's the definition of atheism. Is there a definition? Is there one definition that's better under certain circumstances? Who has the burden of proof? What's atheism versus agnosticism? The history means this thing. The dictionary says this thing. And so we figured we're going to get a PhD in philosophy in here, and we'll talk about what what, at least from his perspective, the definition of atheism is. So, looking forward to. Oh, and we got someone coming in the room right now.
Just a second.
There you go. Yep, you may have to. That's Sinister Porpoise has now joined us, and she's going to need to. I'll set up. Can we get a sound check there? That sounded really loud there for a second. We'll let her get it set.
I was not for my headphones like it should have been.
All right. Well, and I really should get a camera for everybody, but I ended up getting sucked into the conversation, so we still have the center camera for whoever's talking. But yeah, so we're gonna Dr. John Shook. We're gonna be talking about the definition of atheism, and is there a definition? Everybody knows it's polysemous, but how is this? Yeah. So yeah, you just walked in as I was giving this. He's a professor of philosophy at the same university Matty goes to. So we'll figure that out. So that's going to be Thursday, and then we've got overtime on Wednesday, and then we've got, hopefully, it looks like we're going to get Nate Brody on to discuss A, the women's soccer, and B, whether or not mask mandates would be legal. What are the precedents for and against a federal level mandate? And then we've got one or two others that were in the process. Oh, Jesus, I can't believe I forgot. And we're going to have Derek Lambert of MythVision is going to be on to talk about addiction and addiction to, just... it's got to be a broad topic. Addiction should probably be a smaller, but I think we're going to talk about sort of his experiences with it. What's the problem with addiction? How you deal with it? How you combat it? Social stigma against, and various other things that we're going to talk about. So we got a lot of really good shows coming up. I think in the next couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to it. Sinister, how are you?
Well, I certainly have no idea who else you could bring on to discuss the definition of atheism with.
I
apologize to Dr. John Snook because I wasn't.
John Shook, yeah.
I wasn't thinking of you. I wasn't laughing at you. But I'm sure if you ask Nick, he'll explain it to you.
He's not listening, and I will tell you, I can take a stab at what you're going for, and that's fine. You know what? For me, this is just one that the community. This is not an atheist program. Actually, it's not. We mostly atheists on it. We do a lot of atheist content. We do a little theist content, and I would be happy to do more if and when it works out. It's an educational show, and the communities that I spend time in have been struggling with this, and I have debated theists, and they start telling me that I'm an agnostic. I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm happy with that. Now let's just talk about these issues. But it's become weaponized, and if you go on to Darth Dawkins' server, which I highly suggest you do not do, or talk with anybody else, theists will in particular, and that's sort of where I'm concerned with it. What happens when a theist starts to tell you this is how it works? So we're gonna have on a PhD in philosophy, a guy who teaches this, and he's gonna hopefully enlighten us about the that issue, because I think it's weaponized by people everywhere. It's weaponized by atheists, by theists, agnostics, everybody. So let's just Ed, you know what? Whatever he says, I think it's going to be smart, because I know the guy. I like the guy. It's going to be smart. It's going to be pretty accurate. I have no illusions that it's going to be the closing the door on the definitive, this is it. But I'm hoping, and knowing him and having had him on before, I think we're going to get some pretty good direction that'll be very useful. Well, that's my hope, at least. I don't even know what he's going to say yet, but he's booked, he's coming, so looking forward to that.
I thought Mowdy was a professor. I'm going to a university. He's teaching at one.
Yes. Mowdy's teaching at one. I'm sorry, I said the one he goes to. Yes, you're right. Okay, I misspoke. Mowdy's a professor there, and for whatever reason, Rutgers. This is a Rutgers philosophy professor. Now, it just occurred to me, too, I actually have an in at Tufts University, and could easily be getting Tufts professors. And I did actually make a stab at trying to get, what's his name, because he's at Tufts. And one of the four horsemen, Daniel Dennett, he's at Tufts, and my aunt is actually a computer science. Actually, she's the head of the computer science department at Tufts. So I had spoken with her about maybe seeing if she could help find a way to get me in on Daniel Dennett, and but I never followed through on that one. That may have been right before I got sick. I don't remember, but I should do that, because it's highly unlikely we could get Daniel Dennett. But the reality is, he's at Tufts University. family member who I get along with actually really rather well is head of the computer science department there. So I should, yeah, a smarter person would have figured that out sooner. So what are you up to?
Well, in other news.
Yeah. Yes.
In other news, after finishing up the pre-calc homework and quizzes, I did get my 79.999 average to equal 80.914 or something like that.
I thought it would just equal 8, but I could be wrong.
79.999.
Well, 7. Okay. Oh, yeah. So 79.999 repeating equals 80. I'm just saying.
Oh, no, I got it to actual. Never mind.
Okay. I know what you're saying, and now I'm trolling. You've triggered me into trolling now, so I'll stay out of it. Well, good. That's good. That's a huge difference, actually, because that's a whole grade letter. At least on paper. So, good.
Actually, I should have rounded up to 80 anyway, but...
You should have. I know teachers have won.
I'm sure it'll be ruined by the next test, but...
How's the class going for you?
Pre-calc's been rough.
Oh, I don't,
Not because I don't understand the material. Sorry. Thinking there's a delay here. I'm not picking up on.
I think there's a slight one. Don't worry about it. There seems to be a slight one, but what was it? Anyway, so you were gonna. I was just asking how the math was going, and then actually I did have we had a couple things on our Discord that I wanted to get people's take on. Bannon, rejecting Congress, which has happened before, but in this case there may be consequences. But that's a whole nother story. If anyone wanted to discuss it, I just thought that was interesting. And then the what was the other one? I'll look at the other one. But anyway, so the math is. I mean, it's you said it's pre-cal.
I'll be right back.
All right, see you in a minute, Ollie.
Yeah, I have to relearn math I've forgotten since high school. Anyway, speaking of Bannon.
Yes.
I really don't think Biden's going to let him go.
I don't think he is either. And I had misunderstood this, and I forget if it was you or Xandering or Joe. It could have just as easily been Joe, but I had lamented. So when the first impeachment hearing of Trump happened, a whole bunch of people, actually it may have been for the second, but a whole bunch of people refused to testify. And I'm sitting there going, that's a fucking felony. That's a felony. It's contempt of Congress. And but they never prosecuted it. And my understanding at the time had been that they didn't prosecute it for any number of reasons, not the least of which was they didn't want to go through the whole process. It would be appealed all the way through the Supreme Court, and win or lose, it would be well past it would just block the entire agenda in Congress until this got done. So they didn't do it. Yada yada yada. And I'm sitting there going, you cannot let that stand because you're setting up a precedent. Well, they set up a precedent. Now Bannon said he's not going to testify before Congress. But I figured out the other reason that they didn't do it, which was it is a felony, but it has to be referred to the state attorney. I think it's the state attorney for the state. In this case, it's D.C. Well, D.C. is not a state. And the problem is the governor of that state can instruct that they're not going to prosecute or that they will prosecute. D.C. doesn't have a governor. So that job falls to the President of the United States, which at the time was Trump. Meaning, Trump, as the head law enforcement officer, A, in the country, and B, essentially in the District of Columbia, can choose what they will prosecute and what they won't. And since Congress is in D.C., if he chooses not to prosecute a felony against Congress, there ain't much they can do about it. So I think there are exceptions, and I think there's nuance to it, but that's the general understanding as I got it. Now that Biden's here, so I think you're correct, and I noticed you said that Biden's going to go, because somebody had said that earlier, it's like, it's not Biden's choice. It's Congress's choice, and Biden's not the prosecutor. No, but he's the governor, essentially, which I hadn't considered, because D.C.'s not a state. So, yeah, we covered that on this show. I mean, we had a whole episode on it. I was just like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So you think Biden's going to... Yeah, I mean, I think so too. But yeah, why are you thinking that?
because I think there's a lot of things that should not be. I think Biden realizes a lot of things that the Trump administration did are actually damaging to the fabric of the country.
Sandring, what are your thoughts? Is Sandring?
I have no idea.
You please don't tell me. You have to be trolling me right now. You have no idea about whether or not Congress can or should file contempt of Congress charges against Bannon.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they should or not.
Really?
I'm on the one hand, God, I should cut off one of my hands so I can stop using it. But on the other hand, on one hand, yeah, I don't think that's a pretty good precedent to send, to be able to just allow people to say, screw you, Congress, I'm not talking. But on the other hand, I'm not entirely sure that it's if they really want to waste their time, effort, energy, political capital, etc., on trying to go after Bannon. I mean, especially considering recently he hasn't really been mostly a nobody for. So I'm not. I don't know.
Well, records show that he was actually talking to Trump on the 6th, and he's actually said that he organized it. And it looks like he's been doing a lot. Nuts. It looks like he's been doing a lot of stuff in the background nobody knew about, and so everyone thought he was gone, and he wasn't. The reason they want to talk to him is because they want to know what he was saying to Trump on the 6th, and that's the part of the inquiry they're doing right now. That's why they want to subpoena the records from the White House, which the White House has said, sure, we'll send you. We won't use executive privilege, and Trump is saying, well, my executive privilege applies, and the general thinking it doesn't, but they're going to fight this out in court. But yeah, no, you remind me. A friend of mine loves to tell me that I what is it? Yeah, well, like, you know, how are those splinters in your ass? Like, wait, splinters in my ass? Which ones? Oh, from straddling the fence so fucking hard. It's got a point. No, wait, no, it does. Why do I have to see that? Suddenly, I'm just like I'm being too reasonable. I'm just anytime anyone says something derogatory against me, I just seem to just be like, yeah, you got a point. No, what the fuck? I need to offer more pushback. No, I don't. On the other hand, yeah, no, maybe I don't.
Wants to know if the moth won.
The moth won? Was there a moth on? Where's Ethan? That's a really good question.
Hopefully doing well.
Hopefully. I actually, and I'll be honest, I haven't been on Ethan's Discord much recently, so I don't know, because, you know, you keep track of Ethan. Now, I've seen him on Twitter, and on Twitter he seems to be happy and healthy, and I think today he tweeted he's just sipping tea. I don't know if he was like observing drama or whatever, but so what I've seen of him on Twitter is he's sipping tea. Every now and then he and I chat for a little while, and you know, he every time we chat, he seems to be A, doing well, but doing well is one thing, but B, just also being positive. So he seems to just be Ethan. Oh Jesus, there was a couple of things that I wanted to sort of do with him, and then, you know, he had a new job, so he got really busy. Then I got really busy, so, and now I haven't been on his Discord in a while. So you'd think if I was a buddy, I'd go check that out, but I haven't done it, and so great, thank you, Maya, for making me feel guilty. Anyways, he's been these. Here's the other thing. I invited him to the last like 4 of these, but he has to get up early for work, and it's not tenable. The hour is not tenable for him. So, and I kept sending them, honestly, because I wanted him to feel like he was welcome, and to feel like, you know, hey, I'm just gonna send these to you. It's cool. Don't ever come. He has to take care of himself. He can't lose his job. He can't let YouTube like take over. So I'm just like, but I was like, I wanted him to sort of feel like, you know, he was still, you know, part of the family and welcome. And then I realized, or I'm going to make him feel guilty because so I stopped sending them, and I don't, but he's, you know, I'd love to have him anytime. But that's sort of so I see him around a bit on Twitter, and that's about it. And I've just been swamped, and he has been too, from what I can tell. And so what were we talking about before Maya just derailed the entire thing by asking a question about we're talking Bannon and a moth that I guess Xandring was doing Mortal Kombat with.
Yes, the realms are now safe for another year at least, because I have defeated the moth.
Yay!
Oh, normalizing atheism. So there you go. Normalizing atheism is here. So Dr. John Shook is going to be on to discuss the definition of atheism. So we will see if it's something that can even be normalized, and you can tell us your views. So we'll send you the link for that. Yeah, Ethan's whole Twitter, I think, was invented by North Korea to undermine American democracy and overall kill the human spirit and cause us to just increase the number of mass shootings and general mayhem in this country. And I think it's working. And Ethan, somehow it all rolls off of him. He just shows up and is just like, here's a cactus dancing. It's a good cactus and it's a good dancer. And he's just like, it just doesn't rolls off of him like, yep.
You think you're joking, and you kind of are, but that is actually something countries like Russia and China have been known to do during our elections, and in general to try to exploit divisions using social media because of the way its algorithms work. And they've done it successfully, because this was a major issue in the 2016 election.
And this is the thing.
We all say...
Please.
We all say Russia helped Trump win, and they did, but what is ignored about that is they were also putting out misinformation on the other side.
They were helping both sides, which seems like a really stupid thing to do. And you're sitting there going, why on earth would you do that, when you realize then that they were helping both sides with dirty tactics on both sides because they wanted to escalate the anger, the tension, and the division. They did have a preference for Trump. And, Ollie, were you going to say something?
They had a preference for Trump, but it didn't matter who won because they were throwing a shadow on the whole thing. So there was going to be accusations coming from both sides. So
yep, and it worked.
It's just plain simple dirty pool.
Yeah, and cause chaos.
And it worked, and they knew they'd get more chaos if Trump won. But the thinking is now that they actually thought Trump probably couldn't win. That was a preferred, but I think somebody had said that one of Putin's inner circle said afterwards he couldn't believe it worked. He just couldn't. That was really sort of their end game from the beginning, but they knew it was a long shot, and they're like, they were messing with everything on the way. Their goal was to get Trump elected, but they were gonna also help Hillary. They were gonna sow this division. They were gonna do all these other things, and even if Trump lost, still win for them because of all the damage they do. And then when he won, Putin was just like, he didn't, almost like 9/11. What's his name? Bin Laden was purportedly really shocked at how well it worked. I mean, the plan was to do even more damage, but they had so many of their plans thwarted. He's like, we'll be lucky if a single plane crashes somewhere. And, so. Did I just call? Oh,
there are ways we can fix it.
Oh no, I was blaming Maya for asking about Ethan, which was a really nice, sweet thing to do, and I'm feeling awfully triggered right now, and generally under assault by everyone. And when Ethan streams with me, I get even more just sort of intimidated. They're just like, he's such a nice guy, and he makes these good jokes, and he's handsome, and here I am, Joshua. So I get triggered even talking about him. So I was lashing out at Maya. Sorry, Maya. Very good question, and he really, that was a real tweet from him. The dancing cactus. It was 2 days ago. That's it. There's ways to fix it, Porpoise?
There are ways to fix it, but you have to crack down pretty hard on Russian IPs in general, and at least prevent Facebook, Twitter, and all the major social media platforms from letting them on their sites in the U.S.
last time we had on John Shook, he said something that really bothered me. And I kind of had the discussion with him. I felt I kind of knew where he was going, but I was having a very hard time with it. And this was on our discussion with generations theory. So I was wondering, Porpoise, if you saw that and if you remember much about that one.
Generations theory?
It was generations theory, and actually, I'm sorry, it was but the post-truth world, where he said, okay, so part of it was generations theory, and that there's actually only, I think it's 4 turns, 4 kinds of generations that you can get. They all have these things in common, and it shocked everybody. Like, we didn't sort of realize this, but it really does appear that we cycle through these things, and there's patterns, and there's reasons we have these patterns, but that this war, what happened with Trump could have actually been predicted, a number of other things, just large societal patterns. Not that Trump would win, but that somebody like him would be popular enough to probably win right about now would be. So he went over generations theory, and he also went over post-truth. And what he said was, according to generations theory, it was because after generations theory, he said, we are now in the post-truth world, which also happens at the end of every 4th generation, where they reject this insistence on what's true and go for and he talked about how this has happened all throughout history and at certain times after certain events. And what they emphasize is that reality can sort of be what you make it, and reality and tribalism over who will agree on certain realities, which is what we're seeing. And so I said, okay, that's definitely what we're seeing. He says, okay, it's called a post-truth world. Truth no longer has any currency. It doesn't matter if something's true. So I said, how do you fix it? And he said, simple. You put all information in the hands of the intellectual elites, and you have them dispense it. And I was just like, holy shit. No. As a person who likes to consider himself in that group, one of the things that every intellectual elite should be able to warn everybody about is putting all the power of anything, including and especially information, in the hands of any one group. And he said, yeah, sounds terrible. It's the only thing that's going to work. And so he and I got into a little thing on this, and I was just, yeah. So we're on the same page, I suspect. But it's funny because, first of all, there may have been more nuance to it than we could get in a 1-hour show. Might be we should have a whole thing on this. And Vox was there, and Vox was huge on that plan. She was yeah, let's do that. And I was just like, no. Vox was like, yeah, we'll control all the information. I was like, no, I don't care if it's the left or the right. No. So we moved on. But it's funny because when you say we have to fix how Google processes information, and I'm sitting there going, that really is, Google is really right now the intellectual elites, and we're saying somebody's going to have to decide what they will allow other people to see. Is that where we're at? Is that a good idea? Well,
that's essentially what's happening. Google's deciding what it's going to show us. I mean, Google does have some competition, but I wouldn't call Google information elite, because Google for the longest time didn't care whether it was giving you correct information or not. It's just checking. It's like, is this the information you wanted?
Yeah.
And it's only recently started to say, it's like, hey, maybe we're actually having bad effects on society by letting people access the information they want rather than the information that's correct. And I'm afraid that we really need to get some regulation in on this. And one thing we really need to do, and I keep stressing this, is open source it. If we can see what these algorithms do, we can fix them.
If they're open source, doesn't that... Oh, God. I'm tempted. I'd like to get into open source because I think that's worth it, but I just realized we'll end up talking all open source. Open source is this whole other show. We may get to it before the end of the night, but I'll hold off on open source for a second. I'll try to remember to come back to it, because open source is another thing that's profoundly misunderstood. So I can get into a faux argument with you over it, because I have no doubt you and I understand it and concur on it, but most people don't. At any rate, so does anyone else have any opinions on either Ollie or Xandering? I mean, how do we need to start controlling information? Do we need to have somebody who's deciding what's true or not? and deciding that that's what you're entitled to see and not. And we are already doing that. We're doing that with COVID, and YouTube has actually made it illegal. Not illegal. Sorry, YouTube can't make it illegal, but they've made it a terms of TOS violation to even talk about some of the misinformation. Is that appropriate?
I have concerns, kind of like when you're like, we should give all control of information to elites. I'm always hesitant to grant power to any group that I wouldn't want my, opposition to have.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there is one thing I think we can fix Google the way it operates, because it should by default not give you access to conspiracy theories. But if you know what you're doing and you're trying to research conspiracy theories, you should be able to turn that off with a switch. Somewhere very deep within the Google settings. Don't make it easy to get to. Take advantage of the laziness of the average user, but make it available.
Anyone else have any thoughts on? Yeah. So allow the freedom, essentially. So allow the freedom, but make it so that you have to be savvy in the ways of what's going on in order to exercise that freedom, essentially. Yeah, I think there's a very large lag between. So Sinister, are you, just out of curiosity, are you on a Bluetooth headset, or is it wired or wireless?
No, I'm on a USB headset.
Oh, okay. There shouldn't be any lag there.
I don't know if it's an issue with Teams, though.
I seem to have low lag with everybody else. With you, I'm having a slightly higher lag, but I don't know. Everyone can tell me, and everyone can tell me how the Teams is working out for them. I'm curious in hearing the Teams experience. Like I said, it oh my God, it does so much on the back end that makes life just easier. I'm not adding functionality. I'm fixing so much stuff that I haven't been able to fix forever. So okay, let's see. I wanted to talk about. We're talking about the post-truth, controlling information. I will say this, and this is, so we were supposed to have a debate on In Time, and we've had one debate so far, and I've wanted to book more, and we were booking one that I was very excited for, and it was going to be a experienced debater who actually had a degree in biology, but who actually believed that the vaccines were almost worthless, that the that the side effects of those vaccines would be worse than the disease itself, and that the disease, COVID, has been over-exaggerated for all of these reasons. Now, most of those claims are actually in violation of the new terms of service. So we had to sit down and figure out if we could get in under the exemption. This is an educational channel. We are not profiting those as true, and in fact, he would have significant pushback from extraordinarily well-qualified people in those claims. So we sort of decided we'd do it, but then he didn't want to do it because he didn't want to get canceled and all this other stuff. So we ended up not being able to do the debate. But that was something that we've been working on for quite some time. So the question is that I guess I have a couple questions. Is that a kind of debate, as long as there's pushback by qualified people that should be had at all? Is that one where YouTube should be having these kinds of rules, and are there exceptions?
Sorry, I should let Sandra go. And Oliver.
Go ahead.
I think that would depend on if he has... Some of these things might actually be being debated in certain circles. Like, I can see maybe we're overreacting to COVID. It might be debated in academic circles, but right now we have had, 700,000 people die from this thing in the United States alone?
Yeah, that's about it.
I think numbers like 4 million worldwide, I'm not sure.
That's about right.
And if the average person gets a hold of that without any context, they're going to pick up on the wrong information and just pick up what they like.
Pick up what they... Oh, you mean read into it whatever they want to... whatever they think, whatever their bias you say is very true. Yeah.
Which, to be fair, we're all guilty of, but...
So, any other thoughts? Oh, yep. Please finish Sinister, and then I would absolutely love to hear from Xandri.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Xandri.
I think that it's dangerous. It's dangerous to cut off debate on serious topics. You have somebody who's saying that some of these numbers are overinflated. What is the case you're going to make for that? And for you to just say, well, you can't have this debate. I think that's a dangerous precedent to set. Even if it's something in this particular instance that granting that it's all true. Let's say everything that is being said about COVID is true. Nothing's being over exaggerated, and there's just a disinformation campaign against COVID or the vaccine or whatever. I still think that it's a dangerous precedent to set to just say, okay, well, we're not going to allow any debate on this anymore. This is what it is, and this is what's going to stay, and you're not allowed to question it at all. I think that's a very dangerous precedent to set, and we should be very careful about setting precedents like that.
Well, to be fair,
the next one very well. Maybe.
The next one may very well be.
Go ahead with the. The next one, may be incorrect. Maybe that their side gets it wrong, and the people are coming out and saying, "Wait a minute, this isn't true. It's being overblown," or it's, and without the ability to go through and challenge the status quo information about it, you're never going to find out. I mean, it can be weaponized in a very, very bad way. You shouldn't preclude the ability to have debates or discussions about it.
Well, to be fair,
but I think what's being missed.
I'll say one quick thing. Nobody said we couldn't have the debate, but the new standards were very clear that you could not discuss any of these issues on your air, or more accurately, sorry, you couldn't have somebody making these claims on your air. And then, if you got into the fine print, there was an exception for educational programs that were doing it with pushback. But it was very fine print. It was very hard to find. And my assumption was we were going to get flagged and would end up having to fight it, which happens on In Time a lot. And I'm half really fucking frustrated by it and half proud of it, because I'm like, we win like 90% of the ones that we contest, but it's still a pain in the ass. Nonetheless, there were people who thought we shouldn't even have that debate, and that it was dangerous to have the debate and to even platform that, which I certainly understand that thing, and it wasn't easy. It was not but YouTube's policy wasn't to deny it, and that person decided to bail out. Although I will say this, I think they realized that they were going to lose, because this was the people that they were, and it was set on our standards, so there was going to be there was not going to be, and I made it crystal clear to this person, who I think could have followed the rules. We were going to enhance each side to make their argument to the best of their ability. There wasn't going to be any fallacies get thrown out or any major, kind of derailing or anything like that. That's not what we do. Proud of our first debate in that format. And I think once they realized that the other side was going to be able to really speak, as was he, my suspicion, and this is just me, is that he was looking for excuses after that, because I think he would not have done well. That's my view, is he probably wouldn't have done well. I think he realized it. But Porpoise, what were you going to say?
I'm sorry.
Is Andrew was concerned about? Yes.
I think one of the things that has been missed in all of this is that the measures that are being taken that everyone thinks is like oppression are not going to be permanent, and we could have stopped doing them by now if they would just stop arguing about them and do them. No one likes wearing the mask. Well, maybe some people do. I mean, we know the Dread Pirate Roberts did, because he thought everyone would be wearing them in the future. And boy, did he turn out to be right.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. That's a good one. Okay. I'm not a pirate. No, let me get my please.
And the vaccine mandates are private employers telling you must be vaccinated to work here. Private employers are allowed to do that. So are governmental employers.
What's the state?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, actually, what's the state? It's Massachusetts. It wasn't our governor. It was it may not have been Massachusetts. Crap, now I got to look it up. It's probably on our Discord. There was a state where it was either the governor or it had to be it was a Republican governor, but it was it was sort of a Midwest state, if I recall, and the governor was getting serious pushback from Republicans because the governor overturned an attempt to block vaccine mandates, and he said the state can't do these mandates, and we're not going to do these mandates. But if somebody owns a florist shop and says they want whoever they want to be working for them has to have a mask and or the vaccine, guess what? It's their right. And what I find interesting is it's not that far an argument afield from the gay birthday cake argument. Not birthday cake, wedding cake. How many Republicans said if somebody says that they don't want to make a cake for a gay couple at a wedding, then they've got that right because it's his business and he can do what he wants with it. Okay, if that same person says, I only want people who've had vaccines, it strikes me as roughly the same field.
The key difference is that sexual orientation is an immutable characteristic, and you can choose not to be an anti-masker or anti-vaxxer. I mean, it'd probably be a legal point that Nate would be better off.
Absolutely. But my point is... Okay, so... Well, no, but I think my point, though, is that their argument at the time for the wedding cake was that in a private business, you control what the business does, who the business serves, and all of these other things. And if you wanted to deny somebody because of their race or their gender or anything, you can, and you should be able to, because it's a free country and this business is yours. You own it. You should be able to be racist if you want to be. Okay, if that's the argument that Republicans have been hanging their hat on for a very long time, if you're the kind of guy, some sicko, who thinks that employees should wear masks to keep from getting other people sick, if you're the kind of guy who for some strange reason thinks that people should be healthy when they work for you, shouldn't you be able to do that? Their own argument, which admittedly was a long time ago, or reasonably a long time ago, but this is their argument. By their own argument, they should be for businesses able to do this. Unless I'm missing something.
But it inconveniences them now. They're the target of it.
Oh, shit, you're right. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, my bad.
Republicans are still people. We're all hypocrites.
I guess the foot's on the other hand now. Does anybody know? I thought it was real. Just like you thought it was real what?
I thought it was really bizarre in 2015 when the people on the more liberal side of the gay marriage issue started arguing for states' rights.
It's been trippy. I've been thinking I've been on acid or something. And I'm a little sad because and I've done this. I mean, I've caught myself doing this. I'm gonna do it again. We all do it where we end up arguing the position. And one reason is because, no two things are equal. So they're different situations, so there can be nuance, and you can end up making the same argument your opponent made quite some time ago. And sometimes that's okay. But sometimes it doesn't seem okay to me. And I've been saddened by the number of liberals who appear to be making arguments that they were shooting down not that long ago. And this is my own bias, right? I'm sitting there going, when the Republicans do it or when conservatives do it, I was like, oh, they're conservatives. What did you expect, right? And then when the left does it, I was like, no, we're supposed to be better. I expect the conservatives to play by different rules and keep changing the rule book. And then the left does it, and I was just like, ah, fuck. Let me just, okay. Yeah, Xander, are you going to say something?
Oh, I think that if a private company wants to make getting an FDA-approved vaccine as a condition for employment, they have the right to do that.
Well, we have precedents,
You have
right?
the right to.
I'm sorry, what?
I said you have the choice to choose not to work for them.
Which I've always kind of hated as an argument, but I think is legit. I mean, there are other places to work, and you have to make. I forget when was the first time I heard that. And I was just like, that argument didn't sit well with me, but I think it's a valid argument. I know why it doesn't sit well with me, because it can be pushed to the extreme. You can sit there and take a minority and ban them from huge swaths of different kinds of work through some technicality. In the same way we were talking about, you could when the slaves were first freed, none of them could read. So even though they had the right to vote, and even though it was illegal to block them from voting, there'd be either a poll tax, or it would just be that the polls would say, well, you have to read the instructions, and if you can read the instructions, or if you voted before, then you can vote. If you've never voted before, then you have to read the instructions. Okay, well, who's never voted before and usually can't read? So it was a way to completely eliminate a class from being able to do it. It was just this technicality. And I get concerned that kind of thing is going to be applied to, well, a certain group of people aren't allowed to work here, but you can just get some other job, and then you find out that all the other jobs are precluded. No, you really can't, and all that's left is, street sweeper or something like that. So it bothers me, but only because of where it can go, not where it is right now, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, you're worried about the possible future abuse of something like that.
Yeah, and I'm not articulating it well, and I'm realizing one reason I'm not articulating it well, I think, is because I'm starting to get a little tired, so it should be, and maybe we should tap out in about 15, 20 minutes. But yeah, I can really see the abuse. That idea of, if you don't like it, go work somewhere else. I can see that really being abused, but I don't think this is a case of the abuse, and it's, as Porpoise would point out, because she's made this exact argument before, slippery slope fallacy. So, yeah.
Well, what you're trying to argue, I think, is that is essentially coercion threatening someone's survival, which is an argument actually against the capitalist system, where there are no support, especially a capitalist system where there are no supports for people in place, or inadequate supports, because a lot of these systems that would support these people after they lose their jobs for choosing to exercise their freedom not to get a vaccine, if that's what they want to think of it, have deliberately been gutted. And sadly, the countries that have gotten out of this the fastest either are really isolated geographically, like New Zealand, or are largely authoritarian. We probably could get out of this a lot faster if we could just tell people you must get vaccinated, but we can't do that here.
Well, and that brings, Nate, who we're getting him booked, presumably he's agreed to do at least one show, I think maybe two. I'm hoping at least one of them is going to be on the vaccine mandates, because he actually did his own show on that, and it was very informative. And I think, and he talked about previous examples of where the federal government has actually made those kinds of mandates before. It's rare, but it's happened, and they were deemed legal. However, they were in a much more narrow band than this one, and in those cases, I think polio may have been one of them, I've forgotten, but in those cases, the issue was even worse than COVID, and polio was actually, it didn't result in a greater loss of life, but it was far more devastating than COVID in terms of the destruction really to the civilization and our ability to function. My father said that, when he was in the football team, two of the football team guys died from polio. Another one was in an iron lung for his whole life. And it's just like everybody knew somebody who had been dramatically affected by it. And we're roughly the same thing here, but it's still, at any rate, he covers it both sides well, so hopefully we'll get him on. But the what was it? You were talking about the mask mandate. I am starting to get tired because now I'm completely losing my train of thought.
I was saying the authoritarian countries got out of it a lot faster.
Yes. Well, that's fair, yeah.
I mean, Yeah, I mean, a dictatorship's the most efficient form of government. The problem is that it's the most efficient way of murdering lots of people too. So,
I didn't say dictatorships were good. I just said they got out of it faster, and that is true.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, because it's also true that they're more efficient because you can just say this needs to be done, do it, and it gets done. Whereas in our country we have to debate about it for a couple of years, and by then the problems become so bad that you're probably never going to fix it anyway.
Well, at least the anti-masking stuff is nothing new. This happened during 1917, 1918. But since I decided to go back to school, I found out some interesting things about vaccinations, including what my home state had regarding my records for vaccinations, because they had no record of me getting the MMR vaccine. But if I wanted to attend classes again, I needed to prove I had an MMR and Tdap booster within the last 10 years. So I found out they had a record of my COVID vaccine, which I got in Illinois. And then I had to call my doctor and say, hey, I really don't want to take these vaccines again. Is there some way we can do these? And he drew, I think they're called titers to provide the MMR vaccine. And then I just took the tetanus or Tdap booster because it had been a while since I had the full booster. So yeah, the states can mandate that you go have these vaccines, and they do it all the time, especially to attend schools.
John Alcorn, this was not the example I was thinking of, but I think John there got it right. That's a very good example of what I was thinking of, and couldn't. I think there's another one stuck in my head. It won't come out, but yeah. So say if enough people say, well, if you wear a religious piece of clothing, I don't want you working for me. It takes a lot of people doing that, but if either a lot of people do that and our entire work sector does that because either a large union or, if a really weird example, I guess, the Screen Actors Guild says, well, we don't really think that anybody should become a member of the Screen Actors Guild without, if they're going to have Muslim garb on. But don't worry, there are other acting guilds you can join and so on. Yeah, there are, but you can't actually be in any major Hollywood movie or any movie that's got a budget of more than $8,000. So it's not practical that there's other. So there are ways in which those kind. Yeah, that's a good example. There are ways where that kind of policy can be absolutely abused, and that's what I'm concerned about, even though these examples aren't that abuse. I don't think these are it, but it does not sit well with me for that reason, and suddenly I realize I'm making all of Ksandring's arguments, and I feel the well has been very poisoned. So, let's see, I think Randolph tried to get in, and I've tried, I know we cannot verify his identity. I don't know. They've spotted he's a Canadian, and they're not letting us let Randolph in. I'm not sure why. It's
I'm Canadian and I'm in here.
Yeah, I know. And there's no there is a verification process, but we have it off, and I don't think. This was your first time with it, so Randolph, if you're listening, well, let me view the lobby and see if I can get him in manually, because it's not letting me.
Why am I getting an admit button?
I don't know if anyone's got the admit button. I've hit the admit button on him 5 times, and it says it failed, and it looks like because he's not. Now I'm wondering, maybe he's. Oh, you know what? He's probably coming in through a web browser. Will be my guess, but I explicitly said web browsers should be allowed. But it may be that feature is turned off somehow, and so if he's coming in, I'll bet you he's coming in by a web browser, and because of that, he can't come in. So you may actually have to get is anyone else here in on a web browser? Or are you guys in on the client?
No, I downloaded the client.
Randolph.
Use it for work. I'm on the client.
Randolph, why don't you try installing the client? It's just Microsoft Teams. You can get it on, it's available for every major OS. One of the reasons I'm using Teams is because you can actually come in off a web client. You can just come right in, but you have to set the permissions for that because it could be, you can't verify who it is. It could be anybody if they come in through a web client. It could be a troll. What?
Every major OS? I'm not sure about that one.
I mean, every major Microsoft Teams. Oh, well, okay, I don't know. But at any rate, so my guess is he's coming in on the web client.
It is available on Linux.
Oh, you sneaky, yeah. Okay, that's what I was sitting there going, I know she's got some, of course, Linux. Okay. So my guess is he's trying to come in off the web client because that's not a verifiable client. Now I know the name, but it doesn't know that I know. It's not letting me let him in. So unless he comes in through the,
Somebody's waiting in the lobby.
Yep. Yeah, it's him. He's waiting in the lobby. It won't let him in because it's blocking the web client because he's not verified. So that's
Oh. You have to sign into Teams then.
Yeah, he's going to have to sign into Teams, which means he needs the... I explicitly turned it on, but, we were in a testing mode, and now that we're live, it may be that didn't take. Again, one of the things, the other advantage of this over Skype is it's easier to do that on this than Skype. Skype, I think, for the most part, you have to have the client. This, you can come in on the web, but because that's not secured, I just have to authorize it in the settings. I thought I had... I can't go in now and do it. I got to go all the way into the back end on Microsoft. So you can download it on your browser. Come on in. Otherwise, we'll get it taken. Nick's got the Canadian filter on. I like Canadians because we are contractually obligated to blame them for stuff that goes wrong. So, okay, no worries. No worries. What I will do then... I'm sorry. Yeah, so he doesn't want to install it, which is perfect. Makes perfect sense to me. So... what we'll have to do is, unless I can get him in another way... Nope, the only other way I could get him in, he wouldn't be able to hear you guys, and he wouldn't be able to hear him, so... Oh, wait a minute, there is one other way. All right, Randolph, log into Discord. I'm going to send you a vMix link. That should work. So it's just you bring in people one at a time, but I can still bring you in, so... I'll send you a link in Discord in just a minute. I mean, I'd still like to wrap this up reasonably soon, but let's bring you in here. So I'll send you a link on Discord in just a minute. What were you going to say, Porpoise?
All I want to say is, Randolph, as I understand your distrust of Microsoft Teams, that my employer makes me use it.
What is the concern?
And the university classes make me use it.
What am I missing? I installed it and didn't even worry about it. What am I missing?
It's a Microsoft product?
I mean, have they had really terrible security issues? I mean, saving your data and stuff like that? Or, I mean, I don't like
They're
Microsoft.
Not quite,
but,
well, usually Microsoft uses Cortana if you haven't turned on to collect your data. But I know when Windows 10 came out, they were trying to catch up with all the data collection Google and Facebook were doing. So a lot of businesses weren't switching over to Windows 10 because they're afraid of their corporate data being sent. So basically, if you install Windows 10 right now, you have to turn off a lot of options to get Microsoft not to collect your data.
Okay. That makes sense. So, all right, well, okay. Well, that's good to know. So, yeah, the vCall will make short work of this. So we normally when it's one person anyway, we used to use vCall. Frankly, if we end up really moving completely off of that, I'd be kind of pleased because that one is a laggy thing. So we'll give this a shot. But we are going to start to wrap it up. So now, open source? The only thing about open source that I've heard a lot is people say, well, if you make it open source, Google can't make any money off of it, and it's their their product, and whatever their algorithm is. People have tried forever to duplicate that algorithm. They did something nobody else was able to do and sort data faster than anybody else, and nobody knows how they do it. So you're taking proprietary information that they earned, and now they can't make any money off of it. Is that right, or?
Not quite, because I'm not suggesting they open source all of their code.
Okay.
And Google has open sourced quite a lot of their code, like their stuff for Android, their stuff for the Chrome OS, etc. What I'm suggesting is they just open source their selection algorithms, and that they must be forced to because they're not going to do it otherwise, because a lot of people seem to have this idea that open source is the same thing as public domain. Because I remember having an argument with that about someone with a PhD in biology, because she feared open sourcing the COVID-19 vaccines would have led to something like the Cutter incident. after the polio vaccine, which it might have, but I don't know if open source technology has been tried for vaccines.
I'm not even familiar with that. What is that?
I'll see if I can get you a link later.
Right.
Hey guys, I'm tapping out. I'm starting to fall asleep.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ollie.
It is late for me. It's almost 1 a.m. here, so it's time for me to get there.
Well, thank you so much for coming by.
That's all we need.
Guys.
All right, have a good one. Have a good one, and we'll see you soon.
All I've been suggesting is that we need to see the algorithms for Twitter, Facebook, any.
Not that long ago, so we can reconnect. It's not that hard. I have no idea what's causing that, but we reconnect and continue. So I do apologize. The stream died for a split second, and we reconnected. So we're back to it. It's done this now 3 streams in the last 2 weeks, and I haven't a clue what's causing it, but I think that's gonna spend most of tomorrow trying to figure out the cause of that one. So just want to before we continue with Porpoise, Randolph, can you hear me? Are you okay? You can hear me, but I cannot hear you. But I do actually suspect it's on your end, because usually it I'm going to double check and just make sure that the software says it's getting your sound. May not be, but I want to double check and make sure of that. It's been a while now since I've used vCalls, so let me just yeah, I'm definitely not hearing you, so I want to make sure. So Porpoise, you were saying, and then we'll get, or you wanted to wait for Randolph anyway, but so you only want to monetize the things that they're doing that are not monetized, sorry, open source the things that they're doing that are leading essentially to the destruction of the society.
Yeah, those things.
Yeah, I got Randolph now. His son, that was, yes, we can.
Oh, fantastic. I heard you the whole time.
Oh, well, yeah, anybody who's a fan of the show knows that's my preferred way to have a debate. But unfortunately, we fixed your sound. You're here. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, goodbye.
I hate debating with people who insist on it being reasonable to have the discussion going for. It's just so unfair.
I won't run Microsoft Teams on my systems. I have security concerns. It's closed source. We don't know what it's doing, and unfortunately, Microsoft doesn't have the best history when it comes to computer security and being trustworthy. So it's a problem.
Well, that's one of the things I do like about this software, at least, is you can come in with just the link off a web browser, which we haven't been able to get to work on Skype, but for whatever reason, it wasn't, you're not safe. And I was just like, it's okay. I know he's dangerous. He's a radical. He thinks atheism should be normal. So I get the concern, but we're going to let him in for tonight. And it just I hit it like
one of the most popular web browsers, Firefox. It should be no problem. Firefox, Chrome, Opera. These are good web browsers.
Oh, it wasn't the browser. It was just because it recognized that you had no verification. You didn't have a Microsoft account. You could have been anybody. You just said you're Randolph, but it doesn't. So it wouldn't let you in because there was no independent verification of who you are, and that just means my security settings here is off. Yeah, there is.
They should give you an option to make an exception there. And not doing that tells me that they're desperate to get people to sign up and get accounts on their system. I don't want to do that. I have too many accounts as it is. I don't want any more. Yep.
Well, there is in the security settings that there should have been. Yeah, there probably should have been in the thing, but there is in the security settings where it says, "Would you like to allow unverified clients to connect?" And it was on, so I don't know. I'm going to go back and look at it. But you're in, so we'll get it sorted. I mean,
allow me to connect, just not interact.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure it's fixed because I want anybody to be able to come in. That's the whole point, and I completely understand your objection.
So later, I don't mind doing it through a web client because the web browser is kind of in a sandbox, so it's fine that way.
Perfect. So where were we? Or what were we going to say, Porpoise?
And don't forget, Bill Gates portrayed hacker culture to make his fortune, as did Steve Jobs.
He did what?
this is part of the history of Bill Gates. He's done some pretty legitimately bad things that aren't connected to COVID.
Yeah,
And the things he's done that connected to COVID aren't necessarily good, but he hasn't been done. Most of what he's been accused of hasn't happened in that area.
well, yeah, in that one certainly, but in regards to, I mean, so as a businessman, now obviously Windows stole from Apple. They stole the mouse and the whole GUI.
No,
They did not.
They got that from Xerox. They got that properly licensed through Xerox, as did
Oh,
Apple.
okay.
So that's where those things came from. But it's a common misunderstanding that they stole it from Apple. Had they done that, it'd be lawsuit city for sure. Big corporations will engage that way with each other, or find settlements, or get perpetual royalty agreements set up and whatnot after the fact. And my understanding is that Xerox was putting on demonstration all sorts of different technological ideas, and the CEOs would pay a fortune to go to those events, like $100,000 per ticket kind of thing. And the deal is that they could take some of the technology that they see there and implement it as have the right to implement it for their own products. And so Apple did that, and then later Microsoft did that. So they both benefited from that. Nowadays, it's such a common thing that they can't really hold a valid patent on it anymore. But it's also, patents do expire after a while.
All right. Well, so did you have any thoughts on we had been oh Jesus no yeah, I'm getting tired, so I think we'll probably still have to wrap it up in about 5-10 minutes. But Porpoise did want to get your thoughts on something, and now I've completely spaced what it was. So
I want to hear what Randolph thinks we can do about Randolph thinks we can do about social media.
About social media, in what respect?
About how Google, Twitter, Facebook, all the real tech giants that are players right now filter out content to the individual.
Oh, the solution's pretty obvious to me, is that people can each run their own social media network nodes on their own systems and have some kind of open protocol that allows them to all interconnect, just like how the internet works. The problem is that this is too technical for a lot of people, the way these things could be implemented right now, and that's the hard part. But as soon as people can do that and plug a hard disk in to keep all their pictures and postings and whatnot, they'd be able to post whatever they wanted. That would be the solution if individuals had the power to do this. And right now, for people to set up and run their own social network is an impossibility for people.
Mastodon kind of works that way.
Yeah, there's a bunch of solutions out there, but they're not easy. And yeah,
I don't think peer-to-peer social networking is practical right now.
Well, and wouldn't you still have a problem of misinformation? Or are you just sort of crowdsourcing how you determine what's accurate?
No, because the way it would need to be designed is that you would be replicating copies of the postings that you're replying to and things like that, so that you could maintain the whole conversation. If somebody else shut it down, that's fine, but you'd still have the complete set for you to present from your system, and then people could look around and see this is how this stuff could work.
The platform itself wouldn't be creating the echo chambers. Any echo chambers that got created would be a result of the person collecting the information.
And at minimum now, it's a lot harder to. So it's almost sort of like how the blockchain works, which is it's a distributed ledger of the social. So it's not how the blockchain works, but it's how a distributed ledger works.
Yeah,
the blockchain is a distributed ledger.
Yeah, a blockchain would be a lot of overhead for something like this. Something like this could be a lot simpler, and plus people want to be able to have the option to delete past content, and a blockchain in its current form, you'd have to have that content there and then later have something that cancels it out, but information would still be there. That's the issue, right? So if I have control of my own system and I don't want this stuff that somebody's posted, say it's inappropriate content, on my own social media node, I want to have the option to remove it permanently.
Hey, I miss old school BBSs.
Yeah, BBSs were great, and then FidoNet came along and provided a subsection of it that allows agreed upon communication, but it wasn't quite as peer-to-peer as it needed to be, but it was a great system.
It's amazing how much we've. I mean, I remember, and you could hear, of course, the connection. As you could tell, even once you got good at it, you could tell what speed you had connected at just by the number of beeps and the combination of tones. And everyone thought you were. I was like, do you understand it? And I was just like, I know what we've connected at. Of course, you can't understand. And everyone's like, you can hear that? You can understand it? I was like, well, no, it's just each speed does have its own tone. I'm not deciphering the ones and zeros in my head, but yeah.
And different brands would do things a little differently too, but you could sort of gather by how quickly it was changing.
The time it took, and the time it took and how many changes you had was the other really big indicator.
Yeah.
Also see
when the internet screamed when you hooked up to it.
Yeah,
it was just a
we're talking about
negotiation.
modems.
Yeah, it yelled at you.
MODEM. Look that up. You'll find a whole bunch of history.
You're saying somebody has to look it up?
I'm not saying they have to. I started with if.
No, but what I'm saying is everybody knew what they were when I was. It's like when somebody, what's a cassette tape? Yeah, you're going to have to look that up if you want the answer. You can't. You don't
why
just.
A pencil is significant.
Yeah. Well, and I just recently saw, I guess one of the computer museums somewhere. I think it was in London, but a computer museum, and somebody was in there. And they took a screenshot of the iMac with the pastel colors. It was the first one that had the screen built in, and it was this teardrop shape. And there it is. It's like this is a historical thing, and I was just like, dude, I had one of those. It's not that ancient, but apparently now it's in the museum under somewhere between the Byzantine era and modern history.
So have you pulled out a 3.5-inch disc and then said, "Cool, you printed out the save icon."
Oh Jesus! You printed out? Yeah, no. Well, I love. There's an image of the backup floppy disk 3.5. There's the backup, and somebody's got it on the kitchen, on the fridge, held by a magnet, and it says "Do not erase."
Oh yeah.
Oh well, and then the 5.5s, and then the 5.5s came that you couldn't delete. And they didn't want you to delete them, so they didn't have the tab on the side, but you could just take a what is it?
Piece of tape.
Well, you could take a piece of tape to make the the erasable ones unerasable. But if they were never intended to be erased, it was just a smooth plastic. But you could take a hole punch and just poof, just like you just punch the disc with a hole punch, and all of a sudden you can record on it. I was just like, this is amazing. This is great.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
Yeah. The write protect mechanism. Yeah.
Yes, that was it.
So I'm showing a picture of a disc held on by a magnet, the one you're talking about.
Oh, that's it. I may need to. No, you should be. You know what I can do though? Let me. I am going to quickly make sure. Let's put that up there. Yep, that's it. What's it say there? Hold. I can't even really read that, but yeah, that's it. Exactly.
I think it's in a different language, but it looks like German, possibly. But I'm sure that's what the message conveys: is don't erase this disc.
And then it's the backup disc, so they put it on the fridge where anyone can find it. And oh dear Lord! And what scares me is how few people get the joke. I mean, there's a lot of people looking at that who's just like, "What's so funny about that?"
Speaking of erasing things.
Well, let's porpoise real quick, and then
this is more of a story, so maybe Randolph should go first.
Okay.
No, that's okay. You go ahead.
I remember when I was like 7 or 8, my dad brought home a Commodore 16. And he had an associate's in computer science from the 1970s. So he spent like hours working on this program to do his bills. And he had left his computer on overnight so he didn't lose the data. So I wake up, go out of my bed, see he left his computer on. So I helpfully decide to turn it on. He was not happy. because he lost all the data, but shortly after that, he did get the cassette tape for the Commodore 16.
Oh, and remember when the I remember. First of all, you remember, of course, there's on the PC, because idiots. The very first block of RAM they ever made was I forget how many K, but it was like maybe 16K, and they made it 16K, and they actually hard coded that limit. So the OS understood the limit was there. That was but they said the limit's fine because nobody will ever exceed 16K. And then once that happened, they said, okay, it was 64. And then they added 132 that was now expanded memory. And then finally, there was extended, expanded, and so the computers actually had to have 3 physically different types of RAM, and they had to be allocated separately. And you could actually only use the first one. It had to keep swapping out in the RAM to the first bank because that was the only one the OS could recognize, because the hardware had never allowed it before. Now, the Macs hadn't done any of this. This was just the PC was a fault in how they built it, because they never thought anyone would go higher in memory. It would just be impossible. It was unfathomable. You could have more than 64K or whatever the original bank was.
Well, as Bill Gates said in the early 1980s, 640K, which is the number you're thinking of, ought to be enough for everybody. Which, to be fair, at the time,
I remember hearing him say that, actually. I remember hearing him say that. And there's people, it was on television, and there were people claiming today that he's never said that, but I remember hearing, I know many people who remember hearing him say that on the TV show. So, yeah, 640K ought to be enough for anybody. And that's when I learned the word ought. I had to look it up.
It wasn't a bad idea at the time, but given what computers could do, it's just...
It's amazing that I'm aware hindsight's 20/20, but it's amazing that there was really a time when people didn't realize that it was going to expand as quickly as it did, and that anybody could ever have thought. And by the way, again, it was the PC manufacturers that had that issue. The Mac never had a hardware upper limit on the memory. Now there's obviously however much you can put on any board at any given time, but there wasn't something that was reported back to the OS as an upper limit that you'd never be able to exceed. Now there is also now, of course, based on, like, if you have a 32-bit, you do have a limit, a hard limit on a 32-bit operating system for reasons that you guys know. Not sure we should get into now. It's just the addressing. You can't address past. You don't have enough addresses. Can't do it. But
well, there's a limit on 64-bit computers too.
And there's a limit on all of them.
Higher.
But that's not an artificial one that someone just said we're going to impose because I think they did it to cut down on the number. I think it was to cut down either on the number of addresses or whatever. They said we're going to enforce an artificial limit. It's the same reason, and it was the same crew that said we're going to have year digits double digit, which also Mac never did. Apple never did that. They said, no, we're going to have a 4-digit because eventually that's going to be an issue. And they said, no one's going to need more than 2, and we need the extra 2 bits. So they wanted not 2 bits, Jesus. I am tired. We need the extra 2 bytes. So they didn't want to spend it on a full 4-digit year. All right. So I think we're going to need to call it a show. I'm getting exhausted. I'm babbling, which I know most people can't tell the difference. But anyone who knows me is just like, yeah, Nick's gone from somewhat coherent babble to really rather incoherent babble. So it's a subtle difference, but I'm there. So what we're going to do is just if anybody has anything they wanted to plug or talk about or explain, let's take the time to do that so everybody knows. So let's start with Randolph. What would you like to, where can people find you so that people know when they issue complaints about the quality of the stream? That's Randolph's department. So he's going to let you know how to get in touch with them.
I could certainly handle that for you. If you wouldn't mind just zooming up, this is a picture of a Commodore 64.
Oh, yes, let's do that. Give me a sec.
Although And I'll just briefly explain what these bits and pieces are. There's obviously the CRT monitor display. It was a good one. That's what the Commodore 64 looked like. This joystick was one of many popular models of joysticks. And the drive is usually the same color as the computer and monitor itself, that beige kind of color. And this one here, it's the same shape, but this is a model, probably the 1571 instead of the 1541 drive. The 1571 had a bit of a different color and was for a newer model of the Commodore 64 than what you see in this picture. Nonetheless, it all hooked up really well, and you would put your 5 1/4 inch disc in and load your programs and wait a while, and then finally your program would run, and the 1 megahertz processor could do some amazing things. It had an audio chip that was separate. It was the first computer to do that at that time, and it could play 3 different sounds at the same time. They called it 3 voices, and it also had a sprite chip that would handle sprites separately as well. So
I'm going to interrupt real quick, just so that Porpoise knows. We've actually white boxed. Nobody can see Porpoise. Porpoise is going to show hers in a minute, but nobody can see her because she's you're white boxed. So everyone can only see Randolph right now. So in a minute, Porpoise is going to show hers. So Randolph, please continue.
Oh, yeah. So it had this, and so this was phenomenal for games. I think it was 8 sprites that were supported at first, but it was this was my first computer, except I had the 1541 drive. Nonetheless, it was provided plenty of hours of self-education and fun at the same time, and I think it was a wonderful machine for kids to learn on, because so much of it was manual, and you had to really understand at least the basics of how to get programs loaded and started, and it just was, it's not like today with the phone, you just push an icon and it runs, and nobody seems to know anything about the under the hood aspect of it, which is good for efficiency, but it takes away a bit of an educational component, unfortunately. So this was a very popular machine. My understanding is it is the Commodore 64 is the still today the most widely sold model of any computer, and other computers keep changing. So but this one was the same part number all the way through, and didn't have any changes for the longest time, and it's a part of history. It's kind of neat that we're talking about all this stuff. But I'll just quickly switch back to my normal now. I hope people found that little trip down nostalgia lane or memory lane to be of some interest, at least. So Nick, thank you for making a little extra time to bring me on. I'm glad that you're able to make it work, and I appreciate everyone in the audience being here and tuning in. And it's great to see everybody else here who's in the show with us. That was here before me. I am probably, it looks very likely that I'm going to be debating with a Muslim on Modern Day Debate October 30th or early November. We're still working out the date and the topic, but right now it looks like the topic is going to be along the lines of is Islam true? And so I want to refine the topic a bit. Because that's kind of a bit wide open, but we'll figure it out. And I'm working with James on this. He came up to me about this, and I think, this is fantastic. My first chance to debate live with a Muslim, and because Islam is quite different from Christianity that I'm more familiar with debating on. And I do want to get into other topics and other religions as well in the debates, but mostly stick with the kind of atheism-centric as much as possible. That's what's coming up. People can reach me at my website, which is my YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/Randolph Richardson, which just happens to be going along the bottom of the screen here. And it's Randolph is spelled with an F, not PH at the end of Randolph, even though autocorrect might insist otherwise. My website address is www.randolphrichardson.com, which has links to all this social social media and whatnot. Thank you, Nick, for giving me a chance to talk about these things today. It was nice going into a different topic of older computers, and I'm very much looking forward to what Sinister Porpoise has to show us next. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Then, so here we go. And somebody's got, I can hear myself. Oh, there you go. Thank you. That's been fixed. So, and let me white box there. Everyone can see you, but I'm still.
That's the 1541 right there. Thank you, Sinister Porpoise. Yep, I actually had 2 of those.
What is? Oh dear Lord, I do remember that. And you actually had to open it, physically open the thing, put the disc in, physically close it. And I always was delicate with that because it just felt like, and if the disc wasn't all the way in, you could hit the disc with the metal brackets, and then if you did that hard enough, you damaged the disc.
See, Commodore had a nice aesthetic to the way things looked compared to a lot of the other computers at the time. Now you see there's 2 LEDs at the bottom corner there. The green one just indicates power. The red one indicates disk activity, and that one's closer to the disk, and the latch is what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yep.
So people who were gentle with their equipment found that the equipment lasted longer.
Well, and then too, you were always kind of tempted to pull it while that red light was on, but if you pulled it while that red light was on, you probably just lost the disc. And sometimes you could get away with it, but what? Yeah, you lost whatever was on the disc is probably gone. That red light meant don't open the thing, but there was no physical loss. Like, it's just like, you know what, I'm in a rush, I'll risk it. Poof, you pop the thing, and you just lost all your data. So Porpoise, so that was it. So Porpoise, tell us a little more about yourself or what you were just showing us, and where people can find you. Oh, you are muted.
We can't hear you.
You're still muted.
We still can't hear you. Huh. Oh boy, what happened to your audio?
I double muted myself on that one.
There you go.
Now.
As Randolph just said, it was the Commodore 1541 disk drive. The one my family had is actually a newer one. I picked this one up at a yard sale for nostalgic reasons. I am the Sinister Porpoise. When you think of Sinister Porpoises, think of the Sinister Porpoise. I have been trying to change my channel around from what it was because I wanted to get away from more drama-related content, and I've been doing Scratch tutorials, and we're seeing how that goes. Although it's been kind of slow, because obviously when you get known for something and switch over, people don't want to watch the new content, because it's not what they signed up for. So, be excellent to each other, and so long, and thanks for all the fish.
Nice. All right, hold on. I'm trolling in the live chat.
Thanks for showing the drive. Thanks for showing the disk drive. That was wonderful.
All right, Xandring, anything else you wanted to say before we? I'm hoping he's awake. This was way past his bedtime, and he's just so patient being here. So, normally all it takes to knock his ass out is if I'm talking for more than 5 minutes. But he was patient. He stuck around anyway. So, Xandring, how are you? And anything you want to comment on before we bail?
Jeez, what did you wake me up for?
Sorry, I know I'm the dick in this situation, but yeah.
Hey, I have my Apple IIe still. I doubt it runs or works. I haven't turned it on in decades, but I still have it.
They don't have batteries for their clock chips in these old machines, so it probably will run.
Oh. I don't know. It's been in my tote storage for like decades. So,
because what happens if there's a clock chip? If you got a clock chip battery, the battery usually ends up corroding if you've got it in storage for a long time, and that ruins it. But those machines, like the Commodore 64 and the Apple IIe, don't have battery for the clocks on them, as far as I know. In which case, you'd probably fire it up and find it works just fine. You might want to blast the dust off it first, though.
Well, maybe if I ever remember to dig it out, plug it in and see if it still works. Play me some Oregon Mill, die of dysentery some more. That never gets old.
Nice.
I have Armor Alley for the old, like, Atari SE. Armor Alley, NetTrek, a few others, the Atari SE. That's actually where I first learned to program. I programmed BASIC on the Atari SE. So
I forgot where I was going with all this.
Yeah, you're tired. You're somewhere where you're going to be able to get some sleep, right? You're not just I don't want to have you driving around, dude.
Oh no, I'm not driving. I'm going to bed after this.
All right. Well, go get some sleep. Thank you so much for joining us, and then you're going to be with us. I think we're moving in time just for next week. It's not going to be on Tuesday unless that's when Nate wants to do it. We're still talking to Nate, but we're going to move the regular in time to Thursday, and we're going to have on Myth Vision to discuss addiction, and then I got to finish booking Shook actually because that date got changed. So, and then we're going to have Dr. John Shook to discuss the definition of atheism. So those will be cool coming up. So unless you can think of anything else, I think we'll call it a night. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you all in the live chat. Thank you for hanging and spending, oh my God, like 3 hours with us. And
we're still looking at a road here.
I'm still looking at, he's going to sleep there.
You got it at full screen.
Oh, I've still got it. Oh, dear Lord, yes, I do. How did I didn't even realize I'd white boxed him. All right. Well, you see, I'm tired. This is never. I shouldn't be producing a show even under the best of circumstances, but when I'm this tired, All right. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you guys. I think actually right now probably Wednesday for overtime, and then Thursday for in time, where we're going to be discussing addiction with Derek. I want to say Lol. I'm tired. Derek Lawler. I think I'm going to have to Myth Vision, and I think that's going to be a good show. So I hope you guys will join us. See you guys next week.